Hello, and welcome to the July edition of the Anger Cure, where we will be exploring issues around grief, loss, and forgiveness, and how this might relate to your anger. In my first video this month, I will talk you through the grief cycle and look at how people often get stuck in the anger phase. In simple terms, grief is the sorrow or loss experienced by someone after the death of a friend or loved one. Throughout history, human societies have had complex rituals to help people manage and process their grief. However, in the modern West, particularly in the United States and in Britain, we seem to have lost contact with these rituals, and as a result, many grieving people feel isolated with nowhere to discuss the deep and complex feelings being experienced. Historically in Europe, a grieving widow would be expected to be in mourning for 1 or even 2 years. Nowadays, sympathy often ends once the funeral is over. The most commonly used model of grief was developed by Elisabeth Kubler-Ross in her 1969 book On Death and Dying. Kubler-Ross was studying patients with terminal conditions and noticed how most of her patients seemed to pass through some similar stages of emotions as they came to terms with their own dying. It was later noted that grieving relatives also seemed to experience the same reactions when grieving a loved one. The stages are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. People do not experience the stages in a linear or exclusive manner. The stages can be experienced in any order. Sometimes stages happen simultaneously, sometimes they are repeated, and sometimes a particular stage may not happen at all. I believe the anger stage of the cycle is both critically important, but also can be one of the hardest to negotiate. The process of denying our loss stops us feeling the appropriate grief and sadness. As we begin to realize that we cannot deny loss, it is common for us to feel an overwhelming flood of feelings, often experienced as anger or rage. Within the grief cycle, it is the processing of our anger that allows us to move to the deeper feelings of loss and grief. But we have the potential for difficulty in two ways. For some people, there is a resistance to moving into the anger stage. It is natural for us to feel anger towards the departed for leaving us, but it can feel counterintuitive, and for many people, unfair or disrespectful. This can be particularly hard for people with a "I'm not okay, you're okay" life position. But failure to experience anger may mean we get stuck in the cycle. We may feel depressed if the anger turns inwards, but this is not the same as being in touch with our genuine feelings of loss. However, for those of us used to experiencing anger as a secondary emotion, for more information on that one, see our January model, we may get stuck in the anger stage, refusing to move into the depression stage. In this sense, the anger gets projected onto those around us, including inanimate objects. My favourite technique in this circumstance is to write a letter to your departed loved one. Write about your feelings, your memories, and the things you miss about them, but also write about what you have both missed in the absence of the other. For example, if your parent has passed away, you might want to talk about how they are missing out on their grandchildren and the milestones that they are achieving. Allow yourself to feel your anger and express this in your letter. So many of my clients experience this as a powerful exercise that allows them to process the anger and move into a deeper experience of grief and loss. If and when the tears come, allow yourself to cry. This is not a time to be strong. Your sadness is an appropriate and necessary response to your loss. Feel your pain, and over time you will move through the grief cycle to a sense of accepting your new life without the deceased. Whilst you are feeling strong emotions, be it anger or sadness, all the techniques we have used for managing anger in the body will also apply here. Breathing techniques, yoga and exercise, and journaling will help you through your grief. Well, that's it for me this week. If you have questions, don't forget to pop into the Facebook group and ask them. But for now, bye.